Right, good morning to you all, Bore da. We're on Friday's assembly here, last assembly of the week, first week back in school. However, we're not in school, and little messages on the news today that we may not be back for a little while longer. So keep an eye out for the letter that I sent home today, or messages I sent to mum and dad or whoever looks after you. But last assembly of the week, I hope we've had a nice week in the house, working hard on your home learning tasks, and have enjoyed the assemblies. Now, I said I was taking assembly out on tour, and I wondered if you can spot which class I'm in today. So it's got a display. I can train my brain to do it. It's got the learning zone, the panic zone, and the comfort zone behind me. We all know about that with our learning. Well, I bet you've probably guessed. I am in year one this morning, and I've got my assembly here for you. And with staying in the house and not coming to school, I suppose the last 9 months for us, really, even longer, that perhaps we've come to realise that we shouldn't take things for granted, like coming to school, or seeing our friends, or seeing our families, or being able to go out when we want to and do the things that we want to do, because we haven't been able to do them for quite a while now to keep each other and ourselves safe. However, this morning's story is about taking things for granted, because there are many things we don't take for granted. The love in our families and having somewhere safe to live. When we walk into a room, if it's dark, we can switch the light on. If we need a drink of water, we can turn the tap. And in lots of other countries, that doesn't happen. And this morning's story is a little bit about that. And it's called The Day the Rain Came. And it's from perhaps people who are living in a different way to the way that we live, and perhaps are not as fortunate as we are. But we'll find out a little bit that as we go along. There had been no rain for more than a month, and John was worried. It had already been a long, dry spring, and 4 weeks of hot summer sun had baked the ground and slowed the mountain spring to a trickle, and a spring is where water comes out of the ground. If it didn't rain soon, John's crops would be ruined. And as we know, crops, because we talk about crops when we have harvest every year, these are the foods that grow in the ground or grow on trees, the things that farmers and people grow to eat. If it didn't rain soon, John's crops would be ruined, and he would struggle to feed his family over the winter, so there was no going to Tesco's for him. John farmed one narrow strip of land that he rented from the landowner. He depended so much on his root crops of potatoes, turnips, and carrots. Not only did they form the basis of his food for the winter, they also meant he could trade at the market in the nearest town. A bad crop meant a bad year and a great deal of hardship. John lived in a tiny stone-built cottage with his wife Sarah and their 4 children. The cottage was part of the agreement with the landowner, and although it was in constant need of repair, John knew that he was luckier than some. At least his family had a roof over their heads. The cottage was lit by candles and by a feeble lamp that John had made himself. The lamp depended on animal fat, which was not always easy to get. Sometimes the family managed without any light at all. It was not so bad in the summer, but it was difficult through the dark winter months. They depended on the fresh mountain stream for their water. Each morning, Sarah would walk the half-mile across the fields to the foot of the stream and fill the wooden carrier. It was heavy to bring back, but Sarah was used to it. The water would be used for washing and for cooking their soup. Sometimes she made the journey 2 or 3 times a day. Can you imagine this? Every time you needed water, having to walk a long distance, put it in a wooden container, carry it all the way back. The water would be used for washing and for their soup. Sometimes she made the journey 2 or 3 times a day. As the children grew older, they were able to help, particularly Edward, who was a strong, determined boy. There was nothing Edward liked better than to help his father work the land, but this summer was difficult. John and Edward stood at the end of their plot of land and looked at their crops. They had grown well at first, The dry, warm spring had given them a good start, and the green shoots had flourished. Now, however, they were withered and brown. We all need that plants need lots of water to grow. John bent down and pulled up a potato plant, rooting in the hard earth with his bare hands to find the crop. "There's nothing much here," he said, a hint of desperation in his voice. He held up a few small potatoes. "They're usually twice the size of this by now. If it doesn't rain soon, I don't know what we'll do." Edward looked up to the clear blue sky. "Can we not carry water from the spring?" he said. "At least we could save some of the crops." "You've seen the spring," replied John. "It's drying up. We need to use the spring water for drinking, not for watering the land." Edward knew his father was right. Their only hope of salvation was a change in the weather. That night, as he had done each previous night for weeks, Edward prayed for rain. The change came a few days later. It was strange because it seemed to get hotter than ever at first. It was unbearably hot, and the family stayed in the shade of their stone cottage. It was Edward who noticed the sky. Late in the afternoon, heavy grey clouds began to gather. They turned angrier and angrier, their colour changing to black. It was as if the sun had been blotted out completely. The younger children didn't like it, and Ellen, who was only 3, began to cry. John, however, had a smile on his face. He had seen it before. He knew what was about to happen. And there was a distant rumble of thunder. I wonder what's coming. John looked towards the mountain, and a fork of silver lightning split the darkness. "It's on its way," he said, clasping his hands together. "Thank the Lord, it's on its way." The storm broke half an hour later. It began with huge, heavy drops, which fell slowly at first. John and Edward stayed outside the cottage and turned their faces upwards towards the sky. It felt so good, so refreshing after the constant heat. They did not stay outside for long. A tremendous crash of thunder started the deluge. The rain pelted down, hammering on the tile roof of the tiny cottage. The land was so baked that it flooded at first, the water unable to soak through the hard surface and drain away. John did not mind. The mountain spring would be replenished. It would gush down fresh and clear and life-giving. The storm raged for more than an hour, and then it gradually subsided. The thunder and the lightning drifted away into the distance, leaving a gentler, steady fall of rain. John and Edward emerged from their cottage and smelt the freshness in the damp air. It was wonderful. For now, at least, their crops had been saved. Nature had responded to their prayers. So a totally different way of living there for John, Edward, and the rest of the family. Things that we take for granted, like having electricity, having light, having water, fresh water to drink. It's things that some people in the world just don't have. As I said, you imagine having to walk 2-3 miles every day to get your water, having to grow all of your food in the ground, and if it didn't grow, you'd obviously be extremely hungry. What a very, very difficult way to live. So let's be thankful what we do have, because at the moment, things are different, but let's be grateful for the things that we do have, and especially probably our families at home. And I always say to you in assemblies, perhaps this is the day, just go along to mum, dad, whoever looks after you, and just say to them, do you know what? I'm really grateful for everything that you do for me, and I really love you. Have a lovely weekend. I think the weather's okay, so we can get out, get some fresh air, get some exercise, as long as we keep safe, keep our distance from other people, don't meet up with people who don't live in our household. Make sure that you're good for mums and dads, whoever looks after you. I think the Swans have got FA Cup this weekend, for those of you who are interested in sport. I don't know if there's any rugby to watch, perhaps on the television as well. But have some good time with your families, recharge your batteries, and get ready for next week's home learning. So have a lovely weekend to you all. We're actually going to start some live lessons next week with small groups of pupils. So they're going to have live lessons on Microsoft Teams. with their teachers. So that's something to look forward to. And we'll look to spread that out to all of the classes over the coming days into next week. So again, it's something to look forward to. But have a lovely weekend. We're really, really missing you. Hopefully we'll be back together soon. But in the meantime, keep safe, keep looking after one another, keep being good, get some fresh air, get some exercise, make sure you're taking part in your home learning tasks, and make sure that you keep yourselves happy. So we will finish as we always do with our school prayer, and we'll all say it together. This is our school, let peace dwell here, let the rooms be full of contentment, let love abide here, love for one another and love for life itself. Let our school be a lovely place where all of us are caring to each other to work our best and show our smiling face, staff and children helping one another today and always. Have a lovely weekend. See you next week. And as we always say at the end of the assembly, over and